evening, everyone. For those of you who do not know who I am, my name is Jared Shabline, and I am the chair of the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. We have a very important town hall and a very important issue affecting the city of Salisbury, with some ramifications that affect, Wacomico County and really the Lower Shore at large. Tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about the ongoing discussion on the Salisbury labor codes. Some of the work that local labor unions are doing here in the community to make sure that our first responders and other city workers are getting the rights and conditions and pay that they deserve, and get a kind of an insight a little bit about what's going through the daily lives of our first responders. We have a wonderful guest speaker this evening. Brandon Records was born and raised in Salisbury. He was a graduate from James M. Bennett High School and attended the University of Maryland, Eastern Shore for 2 years. His service journey began in 2008 with the Salisbury Fire Department. His commitment led to his promotion to sergeant in March 2022, and he is currently stationed at Cypress Street's firehouse. Further displaying his leadership, he was elected Union Vice President in January 2022 and rapidly ascended to Union President by November of that year. His dedication to his community continues to guide his career in public service, and it is my pleasure to introduce Brandon. Brandon, how are you this evening?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining. So obviously we have a lot to discuss tonight, and really kind of the big kind of to start things, people want to know kind of what is the experience that you have and some of the other members of your union have working as a Salisbury City firefighter.
Good. So Salisbury is it's a unique place. We like to jokingly refer to it as the city that's too big to be small, too small to be big. So we get caught in the middle a lot, but it is Salisbury Fire Department. It's a great place to work. It really is. We have a great, group of, guys and girls that love to come to work, love to do what we do. Salisbury is, it's always been one of those departments that we're not too big to forget where we came from. And we have a lot of people that like to take care of each other. If somebody needs something, there's always somebody to look out for you and to take care of you.
Well, that's great to hear. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually receive quite a bit of calls in the city of Salisbury. It's a very active fire station in the state. Is that correct?
Yeah, as far as we know, our last count, we are the busiest per capita in the state of Maryland. So we are topping, per capita, we're topping DC, Baltimore, Howard County, Anne Arundel, Prince George's, all of the big name departments, we are topping them. So last year, in 2022, we ran just over 16,000. I believe pardon me as I've jotted down some keynotes. So 16,064 total calls for service. 4,282 of those were fire calls and 11,782 were EMS calls. And we went to 76 working fires.
So you definitely stay busy. Can you kind of elaborate how not only that aspect, but some of the other aspects of risk of being, a first responder, some of the key and health and safety concerns that you all deal with on a regular basis?
Yeah, so it's very unique in the fire service. So we're kind of a catch-all, as the best way I can put it. We handle everything from fires to car accidents to dive rescues. We just had a kind of low-level, high-angle rescue yesterday with a gentleman who fell through a roof of a business, and we had to kind of lift and lower him off of that utilizing rope systems. And believe it or not, we in fact do get cats out of trees. It does happen. But as far as like the main concerns, firefighter safety is always paramount. What we do is it's not safe by any means. It's not smart. To the common person, what we do is not smart. Running into a burning building, everybody else is running out. It's not the most intelligent thing, but we have people that love what they do, myself included. So firefighter safety is first, making sure that we have the right tools for the job, adequate staffing levels, all the things that come along with that. Shortly followed behind that has got to be mental health. We see things on a daily basis, on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis that normal citizens should never see in their lifetime. I'm not going to spoil everyone's dinner and go over some of those things, but they are some pretty horrendous things. And along with that goes, as we're dealing with now, is the pay issue that everyone across the country is having to deal with. But sadly, here in Salisbury, we have kind of fallen behind year after year, decade after decade, and never caught back up. So, mental health, people being able to pay their bills comfortably, provide for their family, is a big thing, and no one is safe from that, myself included. Burnout for people we were dealing with during the main COVID era. I can't even give you a accurate count of calls that we went on a daily basis, but just to give you an idea, I had paramedics at my station who would come back and literally be on the verge of crying just because they were so just burnt out and spent from going to call after call and just dealing with it on a daily basis. Another big key concern for us right now is our turnout gear, the gear that we wear on a daily basis that's supposed to protect us. And there is big legislation going through DC right now through our head International Association of Firefighters, is PFAS-free gear, which PFAS it's gained a lot of attention nationally recently because it's in a lot of things that people use on a daily basis. But the sad part is that it's in our own gear that's supposed to keep us safe. So something that should be saving our life could possibly be a detriment or ending our lives in the long run.
Yeah, that's definitely a lot of key important pieces that you kind of hit on there. I know personally, but not everyone at home might know this. There is, at least looks like, some potential relief coming. The city of Salisbury is currently working on its labor code. Can you talk a little bit about what that process is and how that could affect y'all as firefighters, as first responders?
Yeah, so basically the easiest way to explain it, I think we were the only one in Maryland, the only career fire department in Maryland left that does not have a collective bargaining agreement in place with their municipality. So when myself and the then president took over, our main goal was to finally solidify a collective bargaining contract with the city of Salisbury, so that we can have certain protections going forward and kind of assure our employees that we would not fall back into the same situation of kicking the can down the road that we've seen for decades. So we did that with then Mayor Jake Day at the time. We did that in February. We initiated it February of 22, I believe the conversation started. So it's been a long drawn out process. There's been some speed bumps and some ups and downs for sure. I will give credit where credit's due. The city has come to the table. They have understood, they've heard and met a lot of our concerns as far as the labor code goes. But the one hang up seems to be including other terms and conditions of employment. So the way all collective bargaining contracts as far as fire departments in the state of Maryland goes, in one way, shape, or form, they are worded that the scope of bargaining is wages, hours, and other terms and conditions of employment. And I think a lot of the fear is on the city's behalf is that they think that it's such a blanket term and it's going to, open up the floodgates as far as bargaining. But it's kind of worded that way just for that simple fact that it's an umbrella and a catch-all for so many fine, minute things that could, in our job, in our worlds, end up being a lot bigger things. So that's kind of where we sit right now. I won't say that we're at a stalemate, but we're kind of at a crossroads where we need to figure out how we need to proceed, and if in fact they are going to include it. I have I've got them sitting right here beside me. I have a whole stack of excerpts from every contract that's on file in Maryland. I have some from PA and one from Wilmington, Delaware, which is the only career department there. But every section's highlighted, and they're all the same. It's scope of bargaining is wages, hours, other terms and conditions of employment. So, like I've told the city, we're not asking for anything outlandish. We're not looking to bankrupt the city. We would just like, as the Salisbury Career Firefighters, to finally have something that is comparable to everyone else that is on file for the state.
So let's say some of the proposed changes that you just mentioned, say you get them in the labor code when the council passes them. How would that direct the day-to-day life of firefighters and other first responders and even other city employees who would also be under this umbrella?
Yeah, it's huge. Honestly, it's having a CBA, a collective bargaining agreement, on file with your municipality it's huge. There are lots of, and I have friends myself that I know, we have lost employees that have gone other places because they have a solid CBA in place. It's such a security blanket, and the fact that just as I said earlier, we won't fall down this rabbit hole of kicking the can down the road and falling behind in pay, in wages, better schedule, better retirement, better benefits. So you get these people, you hire employees, and they will come to you because they know, hey, Salisbury has this, solid CBA in place. I won't have to worry about being laid off, getting furloughed, anything outlandish.
And as the head of your union, obviously that's quite a big responsibility. What has been your approach towards advocating for better working conditions, making sure that the changes you want to see are in the labor code?
So I guess myself, I'm a pretty no BS kind of guy. It's either it's black and white, take it or leave it. Life does have gray areas, but I've been very, very vocal in trying to get our name out and the good work that we do on social medias. I've tried to attend as many city councils. I've attending even opening day in Annapolis. It's been a very eye-opening experience for me. This is my first kind of jump into the political arena, if you will. As far as dealing with the union, there's a lot of things that I've learned that I was never privy to. So just trying to be constant, to be on a daily basis, just trying to improve. Not only I have a I'm at a brain fart of my words, how I want to put it. But I'm also a part of this. I'm not only just the union president. Like I am an employee. I show up to work on my regular schedule. So, this affects me as well. So whatever I can do to better my life, to better my, my fellow employees' lives, it's what I'm going to do, point blank. And, when I have broad shoulders, I can take the flack, I can take the kickback. But at the end of the day, if I know I'm doing the right thing, that's all that matters.
Well, for someone who's just brand new to the political arena, I have to say you have done a pretty good job. Pretty good job for someone who has been involved for quite a while. So you had us fooled, Brandon, and I mean that in a good way. It looks like we have a really good question from Molly Says on YouTube, and she asked, "What is the council or city's objection?"
So yeah, very good question. So from the feedback that we've heard, I believe that they have a fear of including it. Their main fear is having retirement and insurance included, which it's kind of a double-edged sword because Salisbury is in what's called I believe it's called a conglomerate with Wicomico County. So we get a better rate because they have obviously more people involved. And retirement, we are all, both ourselves and City PD, not the general employees, but we are in the LEOPS program, which is a law enforcement officers pension system. And we've been upfront and honest with them. We're not trying to use either of those as leverage. Do I believe that retirement should be a scope of bargaining? Absolutely. We do not want to lose that whatsoever. Having LEOPS is a huge recruitment tool for us. I think they're scared of the dollar associated with possibly having those in there. But I don't think what they're taking into consideration is that part of arbitration, if it was to go to that, and an arbitrator is not going to run the city into bankruptcy. Part of their evaluation when they take all this in is they look at the city's the ability to pay any of these fees, debts, whatever you want to call them. So they take that into consideration. They're not going to run the city into bankruptcy because we want to go to some outlandish retirement system or healthcare system. So I don't know that they're taking that fully into consideration, or maybe it's just been overlooked. But that's kind of their stance. I think they feel that it's going to open up a can of worms. But like I said, we're just asking to have something comparable to every other fire department collective bargaining agreement in the state of Maryland.
That makes perfect sense to me. It actually seems like we have a comment from a member of the city council, Council Member Alton from, I believe, District 3. That brings up a good question. Have there been any members on the council that have been willing to work with you? Is this really, kind of a traditional management and unions on two different sides? Have there been any support, any kind of, common ground or bridges made?
Yeah, I really believe so. It seems like through our dealings, it seems like, the majority, if not all of the council is support it. Maybe not as far as completely disrespect as far as the labor code. I don't know how 100% they stand. But overall, I believe that the council has been receptive and they are supportive in our efforts, in our, day-to-day routine.
Thank you for that. That is definitely good to hear that there's some overlap. Sorry, there was another question that popped up on YouTube, and I'm not actually sure what that is. So Tyler, can you put that up and we'll see. So Marie asked, do you have? I'm sorry. How do you say that acronym? LEOPS.
LEOPS, yeah.
Oh, I got it right. All right.
Yeah, so LEOPS it's the law. I believe it's the law enforcement officers pension system. So we are kind of blanketed with ourselves, City PD. I believe state police has that. Also, there's a number of municipalities that have it, but it's a retirement pension system.
Okay. I hope that answers your question, Marie. I did not know anything about that, so that is definitely some good context. So for some folks that might be joining us for the first time, and folks, I just want to mention, if you're watching on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, you can ask questions. All you have to do is put them in the comments, and we will put them on screen and ask them live. With that said, for folks who are interested at home, how can citizens, policy makers, activists, and just community members in general best support this initiative to improve working conditions and really support your union?
Good question. Honestly, I guess the best way right now is to contact your local, your district city council member. If you can't do so directly, show up to a meeting. I try to go to every meeting I can in person. If I can't make it, I think I was bad. I missed the one last night. I was just too busy, but I think I've at least made or zoomed in on 99% of the meetings so far. But yeah, just contact if you want to keep up with what we're doing both on the job and in the community. You can follow us on Facebook and Instagram. It's Salisbury Career Firefighters, Local 4246. I think we're the most active that we've been on social media in quite some time on there. So I think we have a post at least every couple days.
Yeah, I've noticed you quite a bit, and I've actually gotten some news. Well, I've noticed when, there have been issues going on in the communities like fires or accidents, I've actually seen it there. So that's been incredibly helpful. For those watching at home, we just put in a link on YouTube and Facebook. That link, if you click it, will actually allow you to send a letter to the council and the mayor asking them to add working conditions into the labor code. So all you have to do is click that link, put in your information, and you can send a letter to the council this evening. If we can get that link popped up on screen real quick, that'd be incredibly helpful. Thank you. So yeah, just click that link on YouTube or Facebook. It'll take you right to the page, give you everything you need, and it takes about 2 minutes to do. With that said, how do you envision the future of labor conditions for, Salisbury City first responders with these proposed changes? How will this make a difference?
If they are included, if we can finally get this what seems like so far long drawn out process concluded, and come to an agreement mutually and have this in place, fantastic. Like I said, this would be a huge recruitment tool for the Salisbury Fire Department. We hear all the time, people want to come work here. They want to work for Salisbury. We are still we are a very aggressive natured fire department, which is a good thing. People want to work for that. But, a lot of times we lose out on people because they don't have that security blanket of having a CBA in place. They can go work for Ocean City. They can go work for Anne Arundel, PG. There are people that are willing to forfeit and make that, longer drive to go work somewhere because A, they're going to make more money, and B, they know that, they have a solid contract in place that every couple of years they're going to come up for negotiations and they won't fall behind in, pay and have a worse schedule, have worse benefits. So, it would be a huge tool for us.
And another thing to kind of add to that, I actually just got a question texted to me.
Okay.
This person asked if they could stay offline for the job purposes. They asked if you don't just cover Salisbury City proper. You'll help calls in other communities, even sometimes out of Wacomico County. Is that correct? Can you touch a little bit on that?
That is very true, and I'm glad. I don't care who you are, but I'm glad you brought it up. So yeah, as everyone probably is aware that's it's on here, Salisbury is it's a very unique place because it's not like looking at a map and seeing Baltimore City or DC with a clear defined outline of where the city ends, and that's where those departments service. Salisbury, as I just referred to it recently, it's basically like a block of Swiss cheese. Myself, where I live right here, I'm sitting in city property, and I can drive 2 streets over and I'm in the county, and I keep going another 2 streets and I'm back in the city. So yeah, we absolutely, as I'm sure everyone's aware because they've heard in the recent dealings between the city and county, we service the county portions of Salisbury as well. And again, for little, what was no charge before, and now is pennies on the dollar, it seems like, as far as what the county pays. But yeah, we go out of county. Probably, I guess now it's about once or twice a year. We'll end up in Talbot County. It seems like we have it seems like we take our hazmat unit there about once or twice a year now for ammonia leaks. We have been to Somerset County several times. We've been all the way to Deal Island, special called there. We just about anywhere you can imagine. We will end up. We have what's called like standing mutual aid agreements now. So there are portions of the county that if they have a fire or a certain call, we go automatically, and that's what's called a mutual aid agreement, and that's vice versa. Those departments come into Salisbury as well.
And in an ideal kind of scenario, obviously this has been something that you and your union has been working on for quite a few years with the city of Salisbury. Do you kind of see an ideal time frame that you're looking to get this done? I assume by this point y'all are looking, whenever possible. Or what does it affect anything if it continues to drag on?
Yeah, ideally. So, not to backstory, but like I said, we originally initiated this with then Mayor Jake Day. I believe it was February of 22, February of 22, I think. Um, and our first conversation, he was on board 100%. He's like, I think this is a great idea. He planned to have it, signed in by that July. And he's like, we're going to have a big, party or celebration that October. Well, obviously that date came and went. It seems like a number of ups and downs and setbacks in between. And, here we still sit. It's, I think my personal opinion is that, through all this, he kind of, at first it was just supposed to be the Salisbury Career Firefighters came to him, said, hey, we wanted to finally have a CBA with our city. He asked us, he's like, I'm on board. I'm 100% behind you, but how am I going to explain this to the other employees? Well, ourselves, we looked at him and we're like, it's kind of, we don't know what to tell you. We're here advocating for ourselves. We're not against anyone else having it. But I guess his answer to that was, when he came back to us the following meeting, was, we're just going to offer it to everyone. So that kind of threw a wrench into a lot of things, because there's a lot of different verbiages, a lot of different position titles. There's a lot of things that come into the mix when you include 3 different organizations, being fire, police, and general employees. So I believe that's kind of thrown a lot of speed bumps into the situation. But yeah, ideally, I would have had this done July of 22 when he said. But at this point, I just want to come to a mutual agreement, have something that works for both parties, and put this all behind us and move forward.
Is there, because I know, there's been big issues with the fire service agreement, and not to, make this town hall too large. Has there been any kind of engagement with the county? Is there anything the county can do to be helpful in this situation? Or is this more just a union municipality to figure it out?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the county, they can do more, I think the members of the council have already said it, they need to pay their fair share. Like I said, we ran just over 16,000 calls last year. Roughly 1/3 of those were in county portions of the Salisbury Fire District. So, the easiest way, yeah, you could take our total budget from the city, and you could, take 1/3 of that and say, hey, county, you're due X million dollars, however that works out. But, the current, I think they pay $767,000 to the city for services provided. I mean, it's not really, you're not even putting a dent into helping. So yeah, you could absolutely, the county should do more.
So this is both kind of, for the people who are watching who don't live in Salisbury, I mean, they kind of have some stake in this as well, because it's the county government who could also be stepping up to the plate as well. Yeah, that's definitely good to clarify, because I think, as you mentioned earlier, people don't really know that you guys cover, like you said, you went down to Deal Island once, so it's not like you're just covering a couple city streets here and there. You're the closest thing to a lower shore fire department that we have. Our next question comes from YouTube. We have Tyler, who asked, have you lost many firefighters due to not having this agreement in place?
Yeah, I believe. So I haven't gotten a tally. I don't think, we might have lost one since the last time I spoke to our chiefs and got a tally. I believe the number was 14. We've lost 14 people, I think it was, in the last year, I believe is what they told me. So yeah, and it's to the point, like I said, we've lost people to the bigger departments, the Anne Arundels, the PG, the Montgomerys. But we're to the point where we're losing people to these smaller municipalities, the Berlin, the Ocean Pines, the Pittsville, some of the EMS only stations, Delmar. We're losing people all over because these people are surpassing us in pay. And while they may not have the benefit package that we hold, we have a lot of younger people now. We're a predominantly young department. We've kind of flip-flopped from what we used to be. So we have a younger generation now who isn't quite as concerned with, having the solid benefit package. They want to see the almighty dollar at the end of the day. And that's just the way the world is right now, unfortunately. So yeah, I believe the number was 14 was the last count.
That's definitely important to bring up because I know you mentioned Pittsville, which is my hometown, which is outside the EMT, is volunteer based, and fire departments across the country, especially volunteer ones, have struggled to get folks to get involved. How important is it for the city of Salisbury to have paid firefighters? For the average person that's sitting at home, what is the difference between you and you run of the mill volunteer fire departments that a lot of municipalities have?
Yeah. So first, I'll say leading into this, I'm not going to sit here and bash anyone for what they do, but I take a lot of pride in being a career firefighter. My whole family has been. It's kind of a tradition thing for me. It's what I grew up around. And I know there's tons of other people that are like that. So I take a lot of pride in what I do. But I don't think a lot of people, I don't think the public really realizes the benefit that they enjoy on a day-to-day basis in having a career staff fire department in the city of Salisbury. What we do on a daily basis and what we pull off with the minimal staffing that we have for the number of calls we run is nothing short of a miracle sometimes. On a typical fire, just take a typical fire, ourselves, we're only guaranteed, if none of us are on calls and nobody's committed anywhere else, we're guaranteed 2 engines and 1 ladder truck. So engine being the one that carries most of the water and the hoses, the ladder truck being obviously the one with the big ladder on top for those who not aware in the community. But so we get 2 engines, a ladder truck, the assistant chief goes, and then we get 2 ambulances to help supplement staffing sometimes. That's all we're guaranteed for a house fire anywhere in our district, because we can't count on the volunteers to show up. It's just the way it is. So a lot of times we're all the help we have. Just for comparison, if you go to any of the big counties, when we run what's called box alarms, so that's for like a reported house fire or a building fire. If you go to any of the bigger counties on a box alarm, they get at least 4 engines, 2 ladder trucks or 3, or a rescue squad, 2 chiefs. So like I said, what we pull off with the number of people that we have and the staffing and the equipment is sometimes nothing short of a miracle. And I really wish that the public really knew what they get for their tax dollar at the end of the day. You get a phenomenal service. You're getting guaranteed response from adequately trained, staffed professionals.
Well, Brandon, I have some good news for you. You survived the question part of this, so we definitely want to.
Yeah.
Oh, nope, sorry, you have one more. I'm just kidding. You haven't made it there just yet.
No, I'm not.
Marie says, and I believe she is referencing the conversation we had about the county. In terms of reaching out to the county, would there be different unions involved in terms of the fire service agreement and any other support you need, or is it still the same players?
No, it would still be like anyone from the public can reach out to them, and that's great if they do, because they need that pressure to do the right thing. You know, there wouldn't be any other unions involved. I believe the only unions that are in the county is the county sheriff's office through FOP Lodge 111.
Okay.
So that's the only one they deal with, I believe. But yeah, wouldn't be any real difference if I'm reading into your question right.
From what I see, I believe that is how the question was interpreted. So I believe you did get that. So Brandon, I know we've thrown a lot of questions at you. I know there's been a lot of topics discussed tonight. We definitely wanted to give this time to you to kind of, summarize or give you a chance to mention anything that you didn't get a chance to talk about, and we'll move on closing up for the evening.
Yeah. So I'll just touch on, I had noted down, so the way the current labor code is written out, the only scope of bargaining is wages, hours. They included uniform and dress code and promotional schedules / training, which I think was kind of geared towards one of the police's concerns. So like I said, they're almost there. It's kind of like it's almost like they're just dancing around it at this point. I've heard from the city attorney, I believe they've kind of tried to piecemeal and pull from two different municipalities. I think Greenbelt was one of the city labor codes that they tried to pull from, which they're not very comparable. I looked at their demographics earlier in their last census. I think their population is 24,000, where we're sitting at just over 33. We've tried to get across to them this whole time. Our labor representatives, our attorneys in this whole matter, ourselves, FOP, general employees, we've all tried to steer them into taking an existing contract, like the fire ones that we've presented to them, and just saying, hey, you have all these pieces of info that are signed into law and work for all these municipalities. Why don't you take that and just amend it to fit what Salisbury needs? We've been met with some resistance, but we're really just hoping at the end of the day that they see that including other terms and conditions of employment is the right thing to do, because it is, like I said, it is kind of that catch-all, blanket term that, while some of these things might seem small, in the right instance, they're kind of the biggest things to our employees. Some of them are staffing levels, requirements for promotion, grievance processes, which they brought up as a concern of theirs too, transfers, reassignments, overtime, which I don't know if anyone even knows this, but us as the fire department, we didn't even get actual overtime, i.e. time and a half pay, until I believe it was just this past budget cycle. So we had people that were literally trying to work themselves into the ground, working for their same hourly rate and straight pay, trying to make a couple extra dollars to pay bills for longer than I've even worked here for 15 years. So we just did get time and a half just this past year, and that's been heaven sent. Some more things would be special event participation for things like the folk festival, utilization of units, required duties, and like I mentioned earlier, turnout gear that would fall into that, being able to negotiate and get into some better kind of gear if they come out with it that isn't going to be a detriment to our health. So I think I lost track of rein me back in. Where were we getting ready to hit on after that?
I mean, that's pretty much, just kind of talking on some of the things that we didn't get a chance to mention in the questions. Like you mentioned, there's a lot of components here.
Yeah. So one of the other things that I had written down, and I'll tie back in, so probably earlier, is when we originally met with then Mayor Day, and I don't know if I believe you were at the press conference where he announced collective bargaining for all city employees. I think you were there.
Yeah,
but
it was.
Firehouse. So I brought this up to as a concern to council when I spoke previously. Is, you know, he stated that day that through this process, workers will be able to bargain for, this isn't quote, but for better pay and better benefits. And the question I rose to council before is, what did he mean by better benefits? I don't see that included in this labor code. You know, I see wages is in there, but what benefits was he speaking of when he offered that to us in his opening statement?
Mentioning, so I had a follow up and it just completely slipped my mind. I have the case of the Mondays on a Tuesday.
It happens.
You mentioned kind of this process. Has it been easier for you more recently? Has there seemed to have been more traction that has been made? Do you feel that you're in a better spot than you were in the past? Or
as far as the labor code?
Yeah, in general, yeah, with the labor code. I mean, would you say you're getting close to a resolution?
I would like to say yes, but at this point, I don't know. You know, I know that the council kind of took the option to table it for the second, so they can get their budget straight first. Which, look, I'm not completely against, but like I've told to a couple members, you know, they've kind of said, you know, don't get frustrated with us, and though we're not, but at some point, like, we have a little bit of right to be frustrated because we've been going at this for almost about a year and a half, a year and 3/4 now. So we've kind of been roller coastered up and down, highs and lows, you know, promise the world, then it just goes away. You know, I won't say that we've been flat out lied to by previous members of administration that are no longer here, but, you know, sometimes that happens. So yeah, I would really like to just get it wrapped up, come to a mutual agreement, and, you know, put it all behind us. But I don't know how close we are, because there's just been so many ups and downs, and I just don't want to get my hopes up at this point.
That's completely understandable. Is there any kind of other, you know, last minute or kind of wrap up things that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, so just I guess I had noted down, just for reference for everybody out there to see kind of the growth over the years. In 2013, the city did what's called an evergreen study. They actually paid for a third-party study to kind of evaluate our staffing levels based on, you know, calls for service and all that. We did in 2013 11,810 calls for service. 3,001 of those were fire, and 8,809 were EMS. So like I told you earlier, we did 16,064 last year. So I didn't run the percentage growth of that real quick. I just jotted down quick numbers. But in 2013, that study revealed that we were supposed to have, I believe it was 25 people per shift working based on those call numbers. And we are still, to this day, not to those numbers with our current calls for service numbers. So if that gives anybody an idea of the growth that the city has had and continues to have on a yearly basis, that right there just, it tells it all. One of the other things I referenced and I wanted to remember, and I was drawing a blank, but I just remembered again. I've heard the term and reference that we're having people get poached before. I kind of want to respectfully disagree with that. Our people aren't being poached by other departments. At this point, we have people who are having to make the difficult decision in respect to providing for their family, to go elsewhere and work other jobs. So I won't say that we're being poached. I think that's a bad way to put it. We're having people that are having to leave for other places based on essentially the big ticket item is better pay. And that's just what it comes down to.
So it's not a, an issue with the department. It's not that they want to leave, the department or even Salisbury. It's just, at the end of the day, you got to put food on the table. You got to provide for your family.
Yeah, and that's been, we don't, as a union, we don't do exit interviews. I know the department does. I don't get a chance to read all those, but I've talked to several people who flat out say that pay is the number one thing, because like I said, we are the busiest per capita in the state of Maryland, but as far as I know, we are also the lowest paid career department. I know of a good friend of mine right now who still works for us, and I'm going to leave him like unnamed, um, but he has quite frankly said that his decision to stay or leave is essentially riding on getting the CBA in place. He works a second job. Most of us, and that's another thing I don't think a lot of people know, most of us that work here work 2, sometimes 3, 4 other jobs to be able to provide, because we are not getting rich by being career firefighters. There are very few places and departments around the nation where you can become wealthy being a fireman, and that's just the way it is. Our starting salary right now, as it sits, without the proposed increases for next year's budget, a starting firefighter makes $38,250, I think it is. So it's, for somebody to come and risk their life for that amount of money, I don't think a lot of people in the public would do that.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we got to get addressed. We have people, first responders. We like to say, we support our first responders. Then we definitely need to come together and make sure that y'all are able to be first responders and not have to work 2 other jobs on the side. So I hope throughout this process, the Lower Shore Progressive Caucus has your back, and we're going to keep pushing to get this done.
Yeah, no doubt. And just so the public knows, I mean, this is not about a money grab for us. This is not about any of that. This is about being treated equally as compared to every other municipality department that even some of our own friends work for. We just want something. We finally want something signed on paper, some protection that will assure us that we're not going to fall behind like we have for decades. We, like you said, everybody wants to support first responders and firefighters and police until it comes time to actually pay them a solid wage.
Yeah, like it's a lot easier to make the Facebook post and have the little graphic, but when it's time to do the work, and I mean that not only just from an elected official standpoint, but also us as community members. We owe it to y'all to actually show up and message our council members, like we said, that 2-minute leather campaign, and say, look, we want this to happen. So I hope tonight will inspire folks that we like to say we support our first responders on the Eastern Shore. Well, Brandon and the fire department and the fire union and our firefighters are asking for our help here, and we definitely should come through and make that happen.
Yeah, and I will. I guess one of the last things I want to give credit where credit's due, and thank the council for their work so far. As far as I don't know if it's public yet or not, but they actually, through all this, through our discussions, telling them, based on, we had a lot of people before who were caught in between 2 different pay systems. So, previous Mayor Day came up with what he called the pay predictability plan, which, is steps 1 through 30. So if you come on, where you would fall at the end of your career, or what you would make if you never promoted. Well, we had a lot of people who were caught in the old system, which it's too long to even discuss. But we had people who were behind in their pay steps for years, and it never got fixed. So, take myself, I've been here 15 years. I was getting paid at a step 7. So theoretically, I was, 8 years behind my pay steps. So this council has took it upon themselves through hearing us to and we had kind of dropped the discussion. We didn't know what to expect. We were expecting just to wait for, possibly a, collective bargaining agreement to fix it. But, shout out to the council for, they actually took it upon themselves to try to find money, and kind of redo our pay scale and give a lot of people, those increases to try to get them to their correct pay step where they're supposed to be at. I know that, there's been some fallout because of the lack of money from the county and the shortcomings in the budget, from previous spending through the administration. But, I will give credit where credit's due. They are trying, if nothing else. So we thank them.
Well, again, thank you so much for your time tonight, Brandon. I think you've provided some very clear insights and knowledge to not only us, but to members of the community. For folks watching at home, if you can go ahead and hit the share button and let folks know, because like I said, like we've said tonight, this is an important issue that the community needs to know about. And then, yeah, absolutely, Brandon, we're here in your corner. Just let us know how we can help. We'll keep sending letters. We'll work to get some folks at the council meeting, and we'll hopefully get to the point where we can change it from you've been working years and years to get this done to hey, you can finally celebrate. I think a celebration is definitely due. So let's get this across the finish line. For folks who are interested in helping make that happen, there's a couple last minute things I want to mention and close. On June 8th. We are having a monthly meeting, which in the chat we'll put the link where you can register to get your Zoom link. We're going to try and make it a hybrid meeting. Details on the in-person location are currently being worked out, but however, you can always join from anywhere via Zoom. That sign up will be put on in just a second. Next, if you're interested in volunteering, there will be a volunteer link. Just click the link, let us know what you're interested in doing. And then finally, if you're interested in supporting the LSPC and our work, we do have an Act Blue page where you can donate directly to our work. Or if you would like LSPC gear, which unfortunately I'm not wearing tonight, I'm showing some solidarity to our brothers and sisters in ASME. We use a union-made print shop where you can get union-made T-shirts, sweatshirts, coffee mugs, bumper magnets, hats. If you can think of it, there's an LSPC version of it. So if you want to support union-made goods and bring additional money into our organization so we can continue to do great work like this, and we can continue to do town halls, please consider making a donation. With that, I want to thank you all so much for coming. Please stay tuned. We're getting ready to announce a couple major town halls in the near future. And we'll also be putting out some information on how we can continue to support our fire department, our first responders, and how we can get this labor code done. Thank you all so much for coming. Please continue to be safe.